So we have Nick Easley, I believe, is next, unless there's a change of order here.
Nick, you're unmuted and ready to go.
Super duper. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Nice to actually be on the other side of the equation. Also manage a few venture funds in the space with Multiverse. 3C is originally kind of my baby. I accidentally started years ago, and I'll get my screen up. And Brad said to wear a collared shirt. So I'm wearing my undercover cowboy uniform up here in the high country of Colorado. After 10 years in suits, it's kind of nice to take a little bit of break and get real and focus on the company here. So I'll get my my screen up for everybody. Here we go. So just to run through a little bit, and I'll just kind of keep it open here. 3C, I originally started here in Colorado with another company called 3E, Easily Environmental Engineering. That was back before cannabis was a cool thing to say. And most of you know me from like being in the industry now for well over a decade. And 3C is a company that when I started it with 3E was really helping the medical cannabis caregivers transition to the first legal compliant cannabis industry here in the United States that we've seen. Through that, I learned a lot of issues that operators have transitioning from that illicit side of the industry to the legal industry. And my main goals with my background, I was an airborne cryptolinguist for the United States Air Force, speak a variety of languages, but originally from farm country in Wisconsin. And I really love this plant. I'm a disabled vet, and I just couldn't help to be, inquisitive of where was my medicine coming from initially here in Colorado with those caregivers. And when I went to a basement and saw all the tie-dye nutrients and pictures of girls on the wall, scantily clothed, and all these like beautiful little plants in this filthy room, I was like, this isn't where medicine should come from. So I started to tap into my
Just so you know, your presentation is not open yet.
Well, that's wonderful. Thanks for that. It says sharing screen here, but
yeah, we see it, but it's still like not in like presentation mode.
That's all right. You know, do things a little non-traditionally.
Okay.
So like I said, thanks so much for the heads up there. But yeah, most people like master grower didn't mean master business person. So navigating compliance and license applications, I got a lot bigger to help those operators in Colorado 2007 through 9. Through that, got to pick up some equity positions and really learn what states do when they transition from a quasi-legal to a legal to a full adult use market. So now over this last few years, now well over a decade, 3C's now worked in 34 of the states. We've worked in more states with investors and then worked in 17 countries and holding equity positions in well over 160 companies. 3C itself is a single member LLC that has holdings companies above that just to limit liability. But then through that, we're able to actually sometimes take equity positions in clients in really long-term positions with our companies and clients. Now, I didn't want to just start a company. This was actually accidental years ago and have now, very much scaled into this industry, but it was really to make the industry more environmental, responsible, just for actually using agricultural principles to produce an agricultural commodity. Through that, we have this patchwork of US states where we have worked in every single state since its inception. So with our knowledge management system, we know what's happening, where it's happening, and when. And through that, able to make creative marketing approaches and help businesses, especially now with social equity programs, to really create bona fide lasting companies and deep confidentiality agreements with our clients. But many of the multi-state operators were clients, back in the day, some of which we have positions, and we get to watch and nurture them grow. So in actually contemplating a raise for the first time in 3C's history, as we just always cash flow the business and can continue to. But as we're growing, looking for some more strategic partners in running larger scale consulting companies, because when you think about our revenue model, we're a relationship-based firm. When we do, any sort of, when I put my investor hat on, like a consulting company is just revenues. But when it comes to the equity positions, the holdings, and what we get to know, building a larger relationship with some strategic capital, helping other investors with their investment strategies, vetting investments, and also when we see unique advantages come up, it's not just looking for a minority shareholder position here. Easily can continue to justify cash flowing the business as we grow. But when you think about what we've done over this last well over 10 years with myself at the helm, having worked in all of these markets and had multiple offices, we've really gotten to see the industry in a way that most people don't get under the hood with companies, or when there's a problem with applications, or when Illinois is popping up and putting in 91 dispensary applications for clients. many of which taking equity positions or having referrals and different commission agreements coming forth. It's allowed us to see things differently. So, I've got a large team, most of us in the United States. I've got some staff in South America, some staff in Europe. Navigating those compliance issues of working in these new countries has been great, but having 8 different languages as part of our skill sets as our team, not just from my background as a linguist, but always looking for that diverse kind of group to help. And when I think about what the raise is here, it's essentially I'm doing a 2 million convertible note. This would actually be able to come into 3CR Holdings companies and portfolio companies, past, present, and future. And as the typical use of funds, marketing and branding, and really entrenching to get through this next 18 to 24 months, even though things are stable and fine and actually growing well, but to really entrench ourselves as a large term kind of exit for a consulting company acquisition, or just continue to build our equity portfolio. But be it consulting services, the investment management services, or starting these new companies in the new states. Just finished Dutch applications for coffee house production just this last week. Today I already worked in Massachusetts, in Michigan, in Maine, in Arizona licenses, California delivery company worked this morning, and then also dealing with some Peruvian financial structuring here this afternoon. So you never know what we get into, but I'd love to have some strategic capital and direction and outside kind of services to help us grow with this capital raise if we choose to do so.
Great. Thank you, Nick. Judges, let's just see if anyone I haven't heard from a little bit. Frank or Daniel? Either one of you like to kick it off?
Yeah, I would. I'm curious to know what is, you had mentioned that you have a long-term, you kind of have long-term investments. I know VCs typically have that time frame that they want to kick companies off the books, right? Or get the exit. How long is the typical hold for you?
From our venture fund and what we do, or are you mentioning with 3C and our equity positions?
Yeah, with 3C in your equity positions. Is there a time frame, or is this you just let them run?
Most of our funds, we do like 7-year exit, but when it comes to our portfolio companies, I really have a short, medium, and long-term approach with some of these positions. Some I know are going to cash flow and have nice exits when it comes to data companies or companies with more IT kind of platforms. Others, with many of our international positions, we know that those aren't going to have really good cash flows, balance sheets, and EBITDAs for the next 2 to 3 years, but the long-term positions will be phenomenal. So I like to balance our equity holdings based on that strategy. Some quick cash flows, like I sell a Danish company for 5.4 million euros, have various equity positions within that, some nice exits for the internal shareholders that we use that for. But it's definitely balanced based on the portfolio company.
What are the terms on the convertible note, and what do you see in terms of happening kind of down the road in terms of path of growth for you guys?
So that convertible note, I'm open to different options depending on what the investor would need for that, because there's just capital and I can do that all day. I mean, I was dealing with my London investment group earlier today, and I could go to that, but I'm really looking for strategic capital. So on a convertible note basis, those terms I'm flexible on. 3C's done well over 12 million in revenue over the last 5 years just alone. Equity positions on that, depending on who you're using for your independent valuations, could be well over 100 million domestically and about 200 million internationally. So that convertible note, I'd be open to structuring that to where essentially if payments aren't met, that's an equity grant, with board seats, strategic directions in the larger holdings company. But mostly I would be doing that at like a $10 million valuation for that 2 million convertible note with some additional options and warrants if desired.
Nick, in the convertible note, when it does convert, will there also go interest in these 150 or 100 companies you have equity interest in, or the firm does?
Yes, ma'am. So, I started my company selling my pickup truck about in 2009 to make payroll and become bona fide. But yeah, of those equity positions that I've coalesced over the years, I wouldn't be setting some sort of like timeline where all previous ones are mine and you get to be in part of, just the future. So this is all past, present, and future equities that would be on the table for us that we acquire. But that would be through a holdings, as you know, Sherry, unless I made a specific SPV, like a special purpose vehicle for each portfolio company or client that we get equity in, when it comes to, let's say, the Bureau of Cannabis Control in California. Like owning 15% of a company there, I might hold that equity and it goes to a holdings company for how like profit sharing and distributions would happen. But if I were to add you, let's say at a 20% position of that, you then get the joy of doing all the background checks every 6 months, fingerprints in multiple markets. Hence why I have a live scanner on call when it comes for those sorts of positions. So that would be in all past, present, and future.
Nick, can you just unshare your screen real quick?
Yes,
And then
yes.
we have time for one last quick one.
If I can ask a follow on, like where is that portfolio valued that you have? And then how do you plan on funding successive rounds in that?
So current equity positions here, I'm setting like the value of the consulting company lower based on revenue streams. Even, operating 50% margin, it's still the cash flow of the business. Domestically, I would state that depending on your valuation, independent auditors, I'd say that's around 100 million. Currently in domestically and internationally, about 200 million. Many of these positions, though, just based on current times, I'm not looking for liquidity events based on current market trends or any sorts of IPOs. For those portfolio companies currently, that'd be a death sentence. So, currently based on domestic and international, I'd say well over 300. COVID times, you could easily cut that in half to 150 if you wanted. For 3C, for successive rounds, I'm pretty comfortable with where we at. I just know that where we could go with some gas. It's like what I do with all of our investments with portfolio companies and clients. I just like to ramp this up a little bit faster, make it a little bit more bona fide and professional in a few of these different markets where we have massive work to do. But instead of taking all of these minority equity positions and growing organically, I think we can grow a lot faster. While many companies are starting to fail in the space, we're thriving and have been for years. I just want to get bigger faster to be able to help this investment network get more equity positions in some very unique and sometimes exclusive portfolio company opportunities. And also, to be a homie, help you with your side too. We have a breadth that's bigger than anyone I know when it comes to our network for how long we've been around. And I'd love to be able to help leverage some wisdom and praxis with some other investment opportunities and funds as well.